As we were discussing off the top of the program, former President Donald Trump catching one break today after the New York Appellate Division slashed his bond 68% of the New York civil fraud verdict today. New York Attorney General Letitia James set to start seizing the former president's real estate and bank accounts to satisfy the $454 million fraud judgment against Trump. But the appeals court this morning said no, a 10-day pause, and lowered the bond needed to obtain a stay to $175 million. What a bargain. Trump and his team say that an appeal bond of $454 would have been impossible to post, and I would say unconstitutional under the Eighth Amendment, considering they already approached 30 different surety companies. It's impossible to get it. So where do you go from there? Joining me live now to discuss this, Chairman for the Dallas County GOP, Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Colonel, it's always good to see you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Steve.
What this demonstrates to me on the front end is, once again, this Judge Engoron has been, or Engoron, however you say his name, doesn't matter, has been yanked back, completely out of control. And look, the Eighth Amendment of the United States Constitution says no excessive jail, no excessive fines, no cruel and unusual punishment. This is pretty cut and dried to me to be something that is running foul of the Eighth Amendment. What say you?
No, you're absolutely right. The constitutional rights of the former president were violated under the Eighth Amendment. And you've seen even the search and seizure down there in Mar-a-Lago was another violation. Look, I think that this lawfare thing that the left is bringing about is starting to backfire on them. And somehow, some way, maybe some people made some phone calls and said, we got to back down on this because we don't want to have this big showboat thing of going in and putting lock and key on Trump properties and things of this nature. It's just going to cause us even more consternation politically. And when you understand Letitia James, she campaigned on one thing. She was going to get Donald Trump. And I think that an attorney general should be focused on the rule of law and promoting law and order, not turning her office into a political witch hunt office.
Yeah. So here we are. Donald Trump continues to win. I don't care how you try to put together the case in Georgia. It's not strong. The case of sexual abuse in New York, not strong. It's going to be appealed. This one gets knocked down. All of these cases keep getting knocked down because it is a witch hunt and a hoax, just like Donald Trump said. Look, I wouldn't applaud this if it was happening to a Democrat either. So that makes me different from them because I'm actually honest. But I'm concerned about something else that I'm watching here, and that is the continued exit of Republican members of Congress, because there's this theory out there, and I want you to weigh in on this. You can't stop Donald Trump because his numbers continue to get better. I just saw brand new polling out of Michigan again in a 5-way race. He's a 4-point winner, and it goes on and on and on. I go right through the swing states. But with Ken Buck leaving, Kevin McCarthy leaving, Mike Gallagher now says he's going to leave, ironically, 3 days after the deadline that would allow for a special election to fill his seat. Two things about that. First, they're cowards for doing it. They ran for those elected positions. But secondly, there's this theory being floated out there that if a couple more Republicans leave, it would give Hakeem Jeffries the gavel, and Congress along party lines could vote to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. And there's some people that are jaded enough to say that's the plan afoot. People that don't like Donald Trump in Congress are going to go after him by allowing the Democrats to have the gavel. Seems far-fetched, seems insane, but at this point in the conversation, would anything shock you?
No, it wouldn't. And once upon a time, someone would say, hey, Steve, that's a big conspiracy theory. But it seems that everything that we say as a conspiracy theory or called a conspiracy theory ends up being truthful. So I would not put it past the Never Trump crew that is out there in the Republican Party to try to do something to undermine the president, especially when you know that you've heard Jamie Raskin come up and say that maybe we should introduce legislation in the House of Representatives that would, bring up this thing about charging Trump with insurrection and vote it and kick him off because what was determined by the Supreme Court, that states cannot do that. States do not have the jurisdiction over a federal election.
Right.
So now we see him trying to do that in the Congress. And shame be on these guys that they're trying to take part of it. But very funny that we've seen these Republicans all of a sudden resigning after we heard what Jamie Raskin said he wants to try to push through.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Now, McCarthy resigned before that, which I think was a coward move. Look, you campaigned for this job. You asked and begged people to vote for you to do the job. and then things get sticky or tight, or somebody says something you don't like and you run for the door. That's not what you agreed to. You ran for the job. You spent millions of dollars to get the job, and now you're going to leave and leave the job open. See, that's what irritates me. I think that makes them dishonest and cowards. Where am I wrong on that one?
Well, you're not wrong, because when you listen to Ken Buck over the weekend, of course, he was on ABC News with Jonathan Karl, so that lets you know something. He would not go on a conservative type of station. That tells you what maybe some of the intentions and motives are behind these individuals. And why would you want to open up your flank to allow the progressive socialist left to come after your own party's nominee, unless maybe you don't want to see this person as your party's nominee?
Or maybe you're compromised. I mean, at some point you have to say, well, wait a second, who's benefiting here? Where's the money going? You know, I see this all the time. Where's the money going? Who's getting paid off? Who benefits politically, financially, and who gets the power? I'll give you the last word.
Well, that's the age-old saying, follow the money. And unfortunately, we have this political oligarchy now in our country where we have people behind the scenes that are manipulating the results and outcomes and the future of our nation, instead of having a representative democracy where the people, the consent of the governed, should be taken into effect. So I'm very concerned to see what will happen. And if we see another person decide to step down and resign, I think that your conspiracy theory will be a very appropriate assessment and analysis.
Well, you have to start to wonder, because of what was said, like you said, by Jamie Raskin, and then you see these people leaving. You have to wonder what the game truly is. Alan West, always appreciate talking to you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. God bless.